Okay, welcome back. I'm going to try to go over some of the stuff that I've done, that we have done, and starting with the shear strakes. We've gotten the shear strakes all fiberglassed on to the hull sides, and Taylor did all that. And what we did was we tack welded the inside. Then we took the temporary batten off the outside of the hull. That allowed us to fill this crack in with epoxy, which helped to stabilize this. And I put some little hot glued sticks across here to hold the angle of this where I wanted it. And then we did the glassing, and now it's really nice and rigid. And so moving forward up here, Taylor glassed these joints here along the cockpit bulkhead, and going up into the front, she's glassed this joint up towards the stem. I still have the breast hook in position, and on this side you can see a temporary batten that I clamped to the side of the hull. And the purpose of that was to try to keep the shear strake as fair as possible in this area where the companionway bulkhead is, so that when we glassed the sides of it to the shear strake, we wouldn't end up with any hump or anything there. I had a few more clamps on this, but I've taken them off. So now you can see our foam cooler, and the next step with this is going to be to fill in some of these little cracks that are left. Like in here, we'll probably use a syringe and try to inject some epoxy in there, but mostly we just want to put a fillet in these edges, and then we're going to fiberglass this box here. I made some cardboard templates for that, and I've left 2 inches all the way around. That's going to leave me room for a draining lid, which I'm still in the process of designing. We also glued in some of these deck beams, and I got around to routing and installing all these little partial bridge deck beams. And so I used that little router jig on this beam here, and these were pre-coated and then installed with thickened epoxy, and I put a tiny little fillet around each one, which is a pain in the butt, but it's a nicer finish, I think. And we've got the port side seat top dry fitting there. There's a hatch cover here. You can see also put a piece of fiberglass tape on the top edge of that. Okay, the outboard well is mostly the same, except I've adjusted the angle and the length a little bit. I found out that the 4 horsepower Tohatsu is a little longer than the 3.5. And since we might eventually switch to a 4 horse with the reverse gear, or possibly a Torpedo, which I also have a 3D model for, we made the well just a tiny bit longer, and I think we could fit the 4 horse in there. So that's ongoing. Also, we have purchased and procured a ballast pump. This is the Johnson Ultra Ballast 12 volt pump that is 13 and a bit gallons per minute. This is an impeller style pump, and we're actually still sort of on the fence between using this impeller style pump versus the centrifugal sort of aerator pumps that are cheaper and quieter and faster and lighter, but they're not self-priming and they're not reversible. So lots of things to think about there. So we're working on our plumbing design and how that's gonna work and the best way to do it. So I'll get back to you on that. Today I got a couple of more of these cockpit beams fitted. I got the 2 outboard beams dry fitted on the boat, and you can see the main beams I now have screwed in position. These have been coated with 3 coats of epoxy now and sanded, so they are prepped and ready to glue in. These ones I just made, so I've got to coat those. And inside the cabin, you can see I made a mock-up of a battery out of cardboard. And one of the potential locations for the ballast pump is in this locker with the battery, which seems counterintuitive, but there's not a lot of places to put the ballast pump. It's going to either go in there or it's going to go in the cockpit locker, and that is yet to be decided. So that's about all the update I have, and we're going to keep on trying to push ahead. We're still trying to have the boat ready for the mess about, and so we are here August 25th. That weekend is taken up. Port Townsend, we decided not to go to Port Townsend, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 weekends left. So pretty soon here we'll be gluing the cabin top down and finishing the cooler box so we can get the seat tops down, so we can finish the cockpit combing so that we can flip the boat upside down and get the bottom glassed, and then we will be putting it right onto a trailer, and we would really like to have it floating for the mess about. So that's the plan, and stay tuned for the next build update. Thanks. And now we have tack welded the shear strake to the side panel inside the cockpit area, and that has kicked off. So now I have removed the temporary gunnel from the boat because it's now served its purpose. All the shear strake is held to the side panel now. And so before we glass the shear strake to the hull in the stern section, we have to sand those tack welds, but the joint is pretty fragile here. So today what we're actually going to do is run down this exterior joint, and we're going to just fill this in with thickened epoxy with just on a piping bag, just squeezing it in there. And then once that sets up, the shear strake will be pretty strong with the side panel, and we'll be able to get in here, sand all these tack welds, and do the glass along that edge. Also, just for fun, I took an angle off the outside of the hull at the bulkhead number, I think it's 5, the partial bulkhead in the middle of the cockpit, and checked it on both sides. And here we go over to the starboard side, and it's a good match. So the system works in terms of the the spacer here and checking my diagonals.
This is a short video.